30 seconds and counting. Astronauts report it feels good. T-minus 25 seconds. 20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Il viaggio verso la Luna inizia in Europa.
A la Luna vamos desde Europa.
De reis naar de maan start in Europa.
Ik maak Artemis. Ik maak Artemis.
Going to the moon starts in Europe.
Die Reise zum Mond beginnt in Europa.
Reisen til månen begynner i Europa.
Somos Artemis.
And we are Artemis.
Welcome, Airbus and ESA is very happy to have you here at the Airbus Bremen site here in Germany. Originally, we planned to have this event in person to gather all the people from ESA and Airbus here in our clean room. However, due to COVID reason, you probably understand that not everybody has been able to travel, and due to restriction, we have to keep distances and so on. And that's why we decided to put on a virtual show. But nevertheless, we put on a show, I can promise you that. I'm going to give you a little glimpse behind the scenes into our clean room here. And later on, I will hand over to our ESA Director General, Dr. Jan Werner, who's going to make a great announcement today for the European space industry. And we have all other stakeholders give some insights into the Artemis program. Believe it or not, the whole travel to the moon actually starts here in Bremen, here at our site. Together with ESA, we are building here the ESM, the European Service Module, which will be mated together with the Orion spacecraft, which build together the Orion spacecraft. And this service module is providing power, propulsion, electricity, thermal control, and also consumables for the astronauts, oxygen and water. It's the powerhouse of the spacecraft, and this is here built in Bremen, here in the clean room. As I told you before, I wanted to give you a glimpse behind the scenes here in Bremen in the clean room. And what you can see behind and even above me is the ESM-2. ESM-2, the European Service Module 2 for the Artemis 2 mission. This spacecraft is going to have astronauts on board and will fly around the moon. This ESM-2 is almost finished in integration. You can see the propellant tanks and cables, electronic devices and everything behind me. It's an incredible piece of machinery. And I'm not getting tired to be totally amazed when I even see or even can touch that. No matter how many years you've worked in space, if you look at this ESM, it's incredible and it will go to the moon. As I said, ESM-2 is going to have the astronauts fly around the moon. It will be finally integrated this year. It will be tested this year and handed over to NASA. The ESM-1, which we have built already here, is handed over to NASA already and is currently in the process to get loaded with propellant and is scheduled for launch by end of this year. Now I will show you in a minute ESM-3. And ESM-3 is the one which will have a crew on board, astronauts, and going back to the moon surface first time. It will be the first woman and the next man we bring back to the moon in the Artemis 3 mission. I've told you that I'm going to show you also ESM-3, and that one is behind me. At the end of this short glimpse into the clean room on our site here, our space site in Bremen, I wanted to show you the ESM-3. That's exactly the one which brings the first woman to the moon and the next man back to the moon. That's the ESM-3 which will build with the Orion spacecraft the Artemis 3 mission. And we are incredibly proud of that. Currently, it's at the early stages of integration. We just received the structure, and we are putting in right now dummies and equipment dummies, brackets, harnesses, and then it will be more and more integrated over the time so that we then finally test it here and hand it also over like the ESM-1, which we had already, and the ESM-2, which is planned in a few weeks from now. So incredible piece of machinery. Best minds of space exploration in Europe are working that together with ESA, together with our suppliers and our partners, and we couldn't be more proud of that. With that, I would like to hand over now to our Director General at ESA, Mr. Jan Berner. Please.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really happy and sorry at the same time. I'm happy that we can really today celebrate the contract for 3 European service modules, and I'm sorry because we cannot do it in person. But anyhow, the European service module is for ESA and is for Europe a very important step forward also to human space transportation. When I'm looking back when we had the ATVs, I always try to develop out of the ATVs also the possibility to transport humans. But the European member states of ESA were not ready at that time. Now, with the European Service Module, we are in that. We are supporting, we are also developing an instrument and a machine which will bring humans not only into Earth orbit, but also to the moon. And therefore, it's a very big step forward. The European Service Module is a heritage of ATV, which you can easily recognize if you look to the X-shape solar panels. And therefore, I'm very happy that this one is now realized, and we must say it's also because the Americans have a trust in us. We are on the critical path for the SLS system. The service module is important. Without the service module, SLS will not fly. Without the service module, Orion will not bring astronauts to the lunar gateway or to the moon. And therefore, with this contract, which will be signed today, a value of something like 650 million euros, and with participation from 9 ESA member states, is a very important step into that direction. And we hope by that we will bring astronauts not only to ISS, but also to the lunar gateway and also to the surface of the moon. So thank you very much that we have the opportunity today.
Welcome, Philippe.
Thank you.
What is your role in this project?
I'm the project manager of the European Service Module, which is an element contributing to the Orion spacecraft, which will be in the heart of the Artemis mission.
So we wait 52 years since the first time we went to the moon. What is the difference now?
Right. The difference is the objective. The objective is to go to the moon as a stepping stone to go to Mars in the future. And while doing this to the moon, also develop an infrastructure on the moon to have a sustainable exploration. Now, what is new, of course, there are 50 years, there has been an enormous evolution in the technology. From the propulsion standpoint, let's say the concepts are still the same. However, the equipment in order to implement those concepts are very much different. There is much more electronics now, much more computer power, which allows to do much more things, have more flexibility for the launch windows, and really have a more agile vehicle to sustain the moon exploration.
Well, I see there is a lot of new challenge going on
There's a lot of new challenge going on. We need to go there. We need to have humans. And for that, we are planning to have the gateway. The gateway is an infrastructure which will be in the moon vicinity, where also ESA provides two critical elements, a refueling module called Esprit and an habitation module. ESA will be fully committed to develop those elements.
Any fun facts that you want to share with us in this project?
Maybe not so much fun fact, but some interesting information. The first flight of Artemis, the first Artemis mission, is an unmanned mission. So there will be some ballast put in the capsule. One will be a dummy, and I guess for other astronauts it will be all sorts of goodies like flags, pins, etc. And if everything goes okay, all those goodies will be recovered when the capsule lands. A second piece of information which is quite interesting is the selection by NASA of the name of Artemis. For those who know the Greek mythology, Artemis is the twin sister of Apollo. So there is a link and a little wink to the Apollo mission that took place in the 60s, but also it is NASA's plan to land the first woman on the moon with the Artemis 3 mission. But there is one thing from the mythology we don't want to reproduce, because if you're familiar with the mythology, Orion, which is the name of the vehicle that's going to go to the moon, Orion was a giant, a giant hunter, but he was killed by Artemis, and that we absolutely do not want to reproduce.
Okay, that's unexpected. Okay,
yes.
That was unexpected. And well, we're looking forward to see how it's going with the module.
Yes, I'm very excited of the upcoming mission, and I cross my fingers that everything will go right.
Okay, we will.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Philippe.
Thank you.
So Didier, thanks for your time today. I've got a few questions for you if you don't mind. So tell me, what's the biggest challenge that you as program manager face?
My goal as project manager, or my challenge as project manager, is really to make sure that the team, and it's a multifunctional team, very diverse, as I said, with young talents. So really what is important for me, yes, there is a technological challenge, of course. Nothing is simple in space, especially in human flight. Orion is an incredibly complex vehicle. It's a lot of tubes, a lot of harness, an incredible structure that will provide astronauts with all the supplies they will need for 20 days of travel in space. So this is a complex subject, but what is absolutely important, the challenge of the team, is to work together to reach this challenge, to deliver together this vehicle to NASA at the end.
Okay.
So Artemis is really the next step that will allow human beings to move out of the Earth, to explore new planets, new worlds. And this first step is first to the moon, and after that go to Mars and further. And really it's absolutely important that Europe and Airbus are involved in this adventure.
And what would you say is the hardest part of your job?
The hardest part of my job, I would say, is to make sure that the proper decisions are taken. Mm. And what is important is to keep a part of doubt in all you are doing. Not be absolutely sure that you are always taking the absolutely right decision everywhere. Yes, of course, it's a driver, but you still need to have this small part of doubt allowing to check a detail here to make sure that everything goes well, and because we know that in the space business a small detail can make a beautiful spacecraft, a beautiful launcher, a beautiful vehicle collapse at the end because there was a screw not well sized or not well fixed, or a screw of 50 cents, and everything is out. So really what is important for me is to keep this part of doubt in every decision the team and I take.
Good morning, everyone in virtual Europe and beyond. I'm honored to be with you in this event, since the reason for it is not virtual, it is very real, as we all just saw. And of course, I wish I were there in Bremen with you right now, because moments like these are rare, even in the life of an astronaut, when you can see and almost touch the very ship that will carry humans beyond our horizons, beyond the next frontier, a vehicle that is built to voyage to another world. I also see we have received a lot of questions online, like the ones from Elfie, Trudy, Sarah, from Cryptonomaly or Stars on Toast, on why we are going to the moon and whether I will fly there. I will try to answer a few of these right now. But let's take a step back first. It must have always been driving shivers down the spine of an explorer or of any curious human to feel the aura that surrounds such a vehicle. And I can even feel it from here, the European Astronaut Center in Cologne. The last time when I've been in this room in Bremen, it was almost 10 years ago, and what I looked at in awe at that time was the automated transfer vehicle ATV-5, Europe's autonomous cargo vehicle, the giant shoulder on which Artemis now stands. It was set to be sent out to Kourou a while later to launch to space a few years later, so I knew I would never see it again. I also remember on the other side wondering whether I would ever make it to space. The thought appeared incredibly unreal and remote at the time. I had just been starting basic astronaut training at ESA, and at that time it was the first piece of real space hardware that I've ever seen with my own eyes. It was almost incomprehensible to me that I looked at something that would be sent to space a few years later. And it did send shivers down my spine, just like now. The feeling that I just mentioned is at the heart of why we humans do exploration. Why we discovered every continent on this planet, why we started to live and do science in the hostile environment of Antarctica, and why we started to fly to space in the last decades. Every step of exploration opened up the next one beyond, and as a result of this, Europe now has a fascinating program that explores the space around our planet, including the next big destinations that are waiting for us out there. From our human and robotic space missions to low Earth orbit, on the space shuttle and later on through the International Space Station ISS, we learned how humans can live and work in space, how to deal with the unforeseen, and how to build the technology that carries us further out into space. We returned invaluable data for science, we developed new technologies to improve life on Earth, we worked together across nations and continents. And, maybe most importantly of all, we returned the inspiring perspective of a human looking back at their fragile planet. The future of Earth orbit will even be more diverse, with a multitude of nations and companies operating out there, cultivating the field that the space agencies have plowed in the last decades. At the other end of the spectrum, we have sent robotic spacecraft far out into the solar system and to the distant but intriguing planet Mars, where they are operating right now at this very moment. They are preparing humankind's first ever attempt to return samples from Mars to Earth and to get a real shot at answering the question whether earthly life has siblings in space. I do not have any doubt that you and I have a real chance of one day seeing humans, and amongst them Europeans, walk on Mars. At the same time, we're preparing to go forward to the moon, to surpass the achievements of the fantastic Apollo program, to go there to live and work as scientists in a sustainable way. We're currently designing the Artemis Gateway with our international partners. And in fact, I'm one of the joint team of experienced engineers and astronauts who are working on how to build this space base around the moon. It will only be the first step though, like a base camp on the way to the summit. Just that the next summit is, in this case, the surface of the moon. What we will bring home from this summit will be the knowledge of tomorrow and the perspective of a human living for weeks and months in a place where our home planet looks like a distant little blue marble in a black cosmos. The moon will tell us about our own past, on how the Earth was formed, which of course is important for us to understand, not only to geophysicists like me. It will also allow us to look further out into the universe and to better protect Earth from the dangers that come from out there. And it will teach us to operate more sustainable on our own planet Earth, for example, by using resources more sparingly, producing less CO2 and waste. But I would even take a bet right now that the best thing we will find out there, we can't even imagine yet at this moment. One thing is clear though, just as we started to travel to Antarctica a century ago, we now have a lot to learn from the moon, our 8th continent. And the very vehicle that will get us there stands right in front of you, sending shivers down our spines, ensuring that Europe, through its scientists, engineers, and astronauts, will take part in the next big adventure of humankind. It will be a complex mission, that is clear, and it will take a lot of experience. Whoever will fly on this fantastic machine, be it my colleagues from the European Astronaut Corps, or even myself, we're ready for it. And we'll make sure to take you with us on this journey. Oh, and do you know what happened to ATV-5, the one that I had seen in these very halls in Bremen, and which made me wonder if I had what it takes to ever fly into space? Well, it turned out a few years later we would meet again, to my surprise. In fact, I opened its hatch and welcomed it to be part of ISS, in an orbit around our planet. It taught me to never underestimate a dream.
Hello, my name is Nico Detman. I'm heading the Human Exploration Group in ESA's Directorate for Human and Robotic Exploration. I would like to tell you a bit today how we are building the service module together with our industry. The European Service Module is hence the entry ticket to the European Human Lunar Exploration. ESA and Airbus have signed the first European Service Module development contract already in 2012. The contract for the ESM number 2 and 3 is currently in place, and an agreement for a batch of further 3 service modules has been signed end of last year. The main European industry involved is Airbus, because they have already been the prime on the ATV spacecraft, and the service module is a kind of derivative. The European suppliers are to a large extent the same, already involved in the ATV program. Overall, suppliers from more than 10 European countries are delivering components for the service module. So the sequence from integration and test in Europe and the US is quite dense and interesting. So the delivery to the KSC takes about 3 years. Once delivered to KSC, ADS is supporting the mating, which is a kind of marriage between the crew module adapter and the service module. The so-called stack is then undergoing combined environmental acceptance testing before the mating with the actual crew module and before the final mounting of the service module solar arrays. Eventually, the complete Orion vehicle is handed over to the NASA ground processing facility for the final launch preparation, including tanking and the mounting of the vehicle onto the Artemis SLS launcher. The transfer of ownership of the first European service module has just taken place in December last year. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having you today, and thank you for your interest in looking behind the scenes at our Airbus site in Bremen. I hope you have enjoyed watching and seeing these European spacecraft, which are playing such an important role in this incredible Artemis mission. Thank you very much again. Thanks.